Hi, I'm Shakitha Owens. I am the director of the Hope Ministry here at Antioch Christian Fellowship. And today we are just so happy to have you here for our spring cleaning mental health virtual event. And our theme today is Spring Cleaning Your Mental Health, a Time to Heal. And we are coming from the scripture Ecclesiastes 3 and 6. And this is from our English Standard Version. And it says, a time to seek, a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to cast away. And we know that during the month of March, what are we doing? We are spring cleaning. We are bagging up stuff out the closets, out the garage, and we are looking for places to send that stuff off to and donate it. And so I want you to keep in mind that even though we are so traditionally speaking hooked on spring cleaning our physical things, that we also need to be spring cleaning our mental health as well as our spiritual health. And so the Hope Ministry is coming to you today, and we are going to be talking about what that looks like when it comes to unforgiveness, what that looks like when it comes to broken relationships, because many of us are stuck in these things, not even realizing that it can hinder and keep our prayers from being answered. And so we're going to be having a conversation about that today, and also providing you with some coping tools and some things that you can take away. We want to make sure that you have some practical tools that you can take and apply after you get off of this event today. And so we just thank you all for being here. And again, it's a time to heal. And so we're going to hear first from Miss Brenda Boyd. We also have our Comfort and Care Ministry that's going to be here as well, speaking to us. So, yes, so Miss Brenda Boyd, thank you. She's going to be talking on unforgiveness.
Every one of us have been hurt by another person's words or their actions. Could be a big or huge, big or small offense. It hurts us to be wronged or to be treated unfairly. Perhaps a parent might have criticized you as you were growing up. In the workplace, it could have been a colleague that actually sabotaged a project of yours. It could be someone who have said harsh things about you. It could be something traumatizing, and even could have been an affair, a partner that had an affair. For me, I can recall personally a feeling of being betrayed by someone that I once loved, the heartache that it caused, the anguish, all the mixed emotions. But one of the things I had to come to realization was if I chose to hold on to the pain, I could have been the one that had paid for it the most. Unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is a state of emotional and mental distress, and it's from a very delayed response on forgiving the offender. It is categorized with bitterness. It comes with a demand for punishment. It comes with, for instance, restitution. It comes as a domino effect. And the domino effect, which affects various parts of us, our body, our mind, our spirit, our behavior, and even our relationships. And because of that domino effect, and it affects the body in such a way, it also creates very much a huge mental space because we keep replaying over and over again the offense itself. We may be walking around not even speaking to the offender, and we may continue to carry on replaying some of those actions or some of the words that we would say in front of that individual, or perhaps that our perception and is clouding our judgment. So the negative impact of unforgiveness, it creates also a hardening of the heart. So how can we love others when our heart is hard, when negative emotions such as these that come flooding back to us? The offense itself becomes all so consuming. Uh, our mental health is one of the most important things to us. It's very important to our well-being. And three levels of the forgiveness is forgiving the other person who has betrayed our trust, forgiving yourself, and it's from the shame, the guilt, And most of the times, for the prolongedness of it, it can depression can seep through. It can become thoughts of suicide, and also just forgive the situation, the circumstances, and these are some of the things that we can't control around us. This could be the death of a loved one. It could be a natural disaster, things that are going on outside of our control. And so, one of the things is that a question that comes to mind as I'm speaking upon this: what if the person that I'm forgiving, that they just don't change? Well, it's about focusing on what you can control in the here and now, in the presence. Think of the forgiveness more about how it can change your life and bring you peace. Getting another person to change, it just isn't the point of the forgiveness. So it's all the benefits of what forgiveness can bring to you. And so we talked about what unforgiveness does to the body, but let's talk about many of the benefits also that comes with forgiving. It creates healthier relationships. It improves our mental health, mental clarity. It gives us less anxiety, less stress, hostility to others. It lowers our blood pressure. It helps us to be able to move forward in our lives as God has intended. And so, what if the other person, what if the other person that needs, what if I'm the one, I'm sorry, what if I'm the one that needs forgiveness? So if you are that person that does need forgiving, first, to be honest with yourself, that is an assessment of what you've done. Look at the wrong that you've done and how it has affected other people. Being able to speak to the person and be very sorry, regretful for it, ask for forgiveness without making excuses, and just know that the other person needs time to be able to move forward as well. Unforgiveness, it comes, it can draw a wedge between you and God, and it can also set up a wall there. So it could stall your spiritual maturity, and in that wall, because it replaces fear, imprisonment. And so you want to be able to live in a life of freeness with Christ. And so if you feel even tormented by an injustice, just know that God, He could feel far away, but in forgiveness, then He's right there, because God would want us to forgive just as He has forgiven us. So as we're continuing to open up the door to forgiveness, just know that if you harbor forgiveness, just know that your Father in heaven sees it all, and that every situation or traumatization should be turned into forgiveness. And so just know that there's a way out, and the only way out is through forgiveness. And so now relationships.
Thank you, Sister Boyd, and a lot of good stuff there. So, broken relationships. Unfortunately, most of us, if not all of us, have had to deal with this. And it's hard. You know, you invest time, your heart, your love, have dreams and aspirations with someone, and then all of a sudden, the rug is pulled from under your feet. And so that's a difficult place to be in. But in order for us to heal, I think the first thing that we need to do is acknowledge the pain, acknowledge that we're hurting. A lot of times, what we'll do is we'll pretend like it doesn't bother us, or we'll make statements like, I was going to break up with them anyway, and so that pride kicks in. But unfortunately, that hurt and pain that is in there, we're suppressing it down. And so the issue that could come from that is when it's time to go into a new relationship. That suppression is right over or right under the surface, and suppression turns into aggression, right? And so those open wounds tend to bleed over into a new relationship, and then and then that more than likely will just transition into another broken relationship, and just compounds the pain and compounds the hurt. So what we need to do is acknowledge the pain, and then go through a grieving process. and go through the steps. And so the biggest piece of that with that is talking with people, someone that you're close to, someone that you trust, a family member or church friend, um, or even counseling. You know, we have to purge that pain out in order for us to not transition that pain down the line. That's why healing is very important. It's not always about us, but it's about our future. Um, and so we need to talk to those things, get it out, purge it out. We have to purge it out, and then we also have to compartmentalize that pain, that anger that we have. We need to leave it within that relationship and the two participants. We have to be careful to not make statements like all men are this, all women are this, because A, it's just not true, and B, when you're taking that into the next relationship, you're going in with already negative expectations, right? And so then you become, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so we have to be careful that um, we're not taking the pain that someone hurt us with and just painting everyone with that brush. On the other side of it, though, too, is we can't beat ourselves up. We can't make it about us, and we can't make those statements like, um, "I'm not good enough. I'm not handsome or pretty enough, or I'm not smart enough." Listen, we all have opportunities for growth, but that doesn't make us unlovable. No one's perfect, but there are people out there perfect for us. Uh, there's a reason why Baskin Robbins makes 31 flavors because everyone has a different taste. So you are lovable, and we have to make sure that we continue to um, search for our value. For A, um, that you're not isolating yourself, and then B, at the same time, so we'll know how we want to be treated. If we think of ourselves at a high level, and then moving forward, we will expect other people to treat us and respect us at that level. And then also, seek wisdom. Uh, if there's other people in your circle or someone you may know in your church that has gone through a healthy relationship or is within a healthy relationship, talk to them. Allow yourself to be discipled. I'm going to be a little bit transparent. My first marriage, it was rough. It was rough, but in we were two good people who had good intentions, but we couldn't make it work. And so at the end of the day, we looked at it and we said, "Hey, we weren't ready. We didn't know because neither one of us came up in a household that modeled healthy relationship. Both of our parents, sets of parents, were divorced, and so if we're not modeled healthy relationships, it's a struggle to have one, right? You have if you're going to take a math test, then you got to study math. So find those in your area, in your maybe a neighbor, uh, other church people. Listen, the Catlins, Deacon Catlin, his wife just celebrated 49 years. I was tickled pink to get to 9, and they have 49. And I guarantee you, they've seen just about everything. And so that sit at their feet and say, "Hey, how can I get myself and prepare myself to have a healthy relationship?" Because it's not about having a relationship; it's about having a future healthy relationship. Um, and like I said, I had to go talk with someone, and I had to realize that I needed healing, and there were opportunities, even though it was painful. There were lessons in that thing, and as I was healing, I became a better husband and even a better Christian and a better man. So that's the goal, right? We have to heal. Don't let it take you out. You can mourn, but don't mourn too long. Just like Jesus told the man in front of the church, get your mat, you're healed. And so, we can only stay down there for so long. But like I said, there are people out there who want to have as much of a healthy relationship as you do. But we just have to put ourselves in preparation for it. And we can't do that until we deal with that pain. And so for now, or now, I will transition over to Reverend Tally, and he will speak on anger.
Hello, I'm Reverend Tally. I'm with the Comfort and Care Ministry. I have the task of speaking on anger, and that's something that we all have done from time to time. But we have to be mindful of one of my favorite scriptures is "Be angry, but sin not." And we also have other references in the Bible where Jesus himself was angry with the righteous anger. But we have to be very mindful to channel our anger in a way that it doesn't put a tarnish on who Christ is and who we are in Christ. Because at the end of the day, we all have anger. We all have various ways of dealing with anger, but we must suppress the idea or the notion that we can just do anything because we're angry. Ultimately, we have to find a way to channel that anger in a way that benefits us in the long term and also benefits those around us. So if you're in a situation, and I actually mentored a kid this week that had a situation at his school, and during that conversation, I had to remind him, just because you're angry in that moment doesn't mean that you can just lash out, say what you want to say, to hurt a person, whether that's verbally or physically or any other way, because at the end of the day, he was forced to go back to the very same person that he was angry with earlier in the day and apologize and say, hey, I was sorry. I allowed my emotions to get the best of me in that moment. And now we have to go backtrack all the things that we said, the mean things we communicated during that time of frustration and anger. Whereas I personally would recommend taking a moment to assess the situation before we verbalize what we feel. That's something I've learned in my almost 14 years of marriage, is that the first thing that comes to mind is probably not the first thing I should say. And it took quite a few years for me to figure out that I needed to take that moment to kind of assess the situation and reflect, and then channel my thoughts in a more appropriate direction versus saying the first thing that came to mind or expressing the first thing that I felt in that moment. And of course, it's very difficult to do that when you're angry because of the hurt that someone has inflicted on you. But at the end of the day, the longevity of the relationship will depend upon how you handle those moments, and if you're delicate with who that individual is, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your kids, whether it's a person that reports to you in a work environment. We have to harness that anger and not allow that anger to just rule us, because at the end of the day, we're representatives of Christ, and if Christ wasn't angry all the time, then neither should we.
And thank you all for, and if I can have everybody to come back on at this time. And so we're going to go ahead and go into our panel. And I just thank everyone for all of your input that you have shared, because one of the things that is so important that we want to keep in mind and remember is that each one of the things that you all have talked about and discussed today, from unforgiveness to broken relationships to anger, all of those things go together, because majority of the time people are angry because of something that someone may have done, something that somebody may have done to them. And so then that creates the unforgiveness in their hearts, and it leads to a broken relationship. So it all works together. It all goes together. And so thank you all for sharing that. And one of the things that I love about anger is because when we read in scripture, it tells us not to let the sun go down in anger. So we have opportunity to heal. It doesn't say we're not going to get angry, but it just tells us not to let the sun go down in anger. And so I just want us all to just kind of have a conversation about, some additional things that everybody that's watching can take away, so that they can be able to again have some applicable things that they can do from in their day-to-day lives, because we got a wealth of knowledge and information on all of the topics, but somebody's asking like, okay, so what do you know, I got this situation going on, what do I need to do, like what's the first step, with the unforgiveness, with the broken relationships, and also with the unforgiveness in their hearts. And so how do we move forward? And so I will I'm just going to ask you, Sister Brenda, since you spoke on unforgiveness, like what are some things that you feel like would be so important for somebody that may be saying, like, I don't want to forgive, you know, I may forget, but I'm not going to forgive. Or you hear, I mean, I may forgive, and I'm not going to forget. You hear all these different things that people say. And to me, that's just setting up a reservation in their heart to never forgive, because that's not true forgiveness.
Exactly. It is, it can remain an open wound until you actually have to deal with it. And on the aspect of having to deal with it, because unforgiveness is not contained, it spreads. So it spreads to relationships. It will create a wedge to in building healthier relationships, having a healthy relationship. One of the things that it does too, it hinders the body's ability to heal, um, and it also prevents the individual from being able to move forward effectively into anything. It hinders our prayer life. If there's anything that you have been praying for, spiritual um, maturity or anything like that, perhaps you may feel that you're stalled and stuck in a rut, stuck in a what I feel this way or what have you, but it will consume you in ways that you can even imagine. So it touches every aspect of our lives. So I would say to that person to first acknowledge, choose to forgive, and then release the control.
Thank you, Sister Brenda, for that.
That's good.
And if anybody else want to chime in, you feel free to on unforgiveness.
I would say that one thing that I learned very early on in my Christian walk was, in order to forgive a person for something that they did towards me that was very egregious, what I was suggested that I do was pray for that person daily. And initially, I was hurt. And so my prayer was like, Lord, how do I pray for the person that hurt me more than anyone has ever hurt me, right? And over time, the prayer became more and more genuine. And the prayer was, Lord, bless this person. Lord, heal this person. Lord, deliver this person. Lord, make this person free. Initially, my anger wouldn't allow me to pray that prayer with authenticity. I was saying the words, but I didn't really want God to bless that person because they had hurt me, right? But over
Mm.
time, after praying for that person daily, day in and day out, I really wanted God to bless that person. I really wanted God to make that person better. I really wanted God to heal that person and set them free from the things that were holding them hostage. And over time, I let go of the unforgiveness because I really wanted God to do some things in their life, although they had hurt me to the core. And so I would make that recommendation to anyone else that's harboring unforgiveness against a parent or spouse or an ex or whoever that person is. Pray for that person every day. And it may be hard for you to pray for the person that cheated on you and left you with 3 kids or whatever your scenario is, but over time, I promise you, it works. It will break the yoke of unforgiveness off of your life, and you will be free to be a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So we know that prayer is key. We got to keep praying for people even when they hurt us. So thank you for that, Reverend Tally. And one thing that I'll just throw in there is that, um, when it comes to forgiveness, one of the things that I've saw to be helpful is sometimes you just got to feel sorry for people, that they don't know any better.
Yeah.
And, that will help soften your heart, with any anger you may have, in your heart towards them, sometimes you just got to feel sorry for them, that they don't know any better, that they don't know 70 times 7, that they don't know, the spiritual aspect of what unforgiveness can do and how difficult it is. So, and then that's where we come in discipleship mode, because now we got to educate in the process of trying to unforgive. And like Reverend Taylor said, we need to be praying for them. So definitely, and then the effect that it has on your mental health, having being convicted of just those relationships and not being where you need to be in them. So thank you all for sharing that. And so, so we got some tools for unforgiveness. And so we talked about, initially how one thing leads to another. It start out with the situation that creates the anger. Then we got unforgiveness, and then we got our broken relationships. And so I just want to go to, and I'm gonna go back to you, Reverend Tally, on the anger part of it. And I just want you to kind of just share with us, like, um, and I think it kind of goes together with the unforgiveness, but I guess just thinking and
It
shedding
does.
a little bit on the anger aspect of it, like how do people even recognize like what those root causes of the anger is? Because sometimes people just mad for no reason and don't even know it. Um, what are
Mhm.
some things that you think that may be able to help them recognize those root causes?
For me personally, I realized that a lot of my anger was triggered by childhood trauma. So I grew up in a very rough environment as it relates to my parents were divorced, and just all the back and forth between the pain of that, seeing two people that you love dissolve their marriage and go in different directions, and being the kid in the middle that's kind of torn from between one and the other. And so if you can't rectify the root of why you're angry, then you will go through life angry with people who never did anything to you,
Right.
because you're angry because of what your mom did or what your dad did or what your aunt or uncle or grandparent did or what the teacher told you couldn't become when you were in elementary school. And so you go through life with this chip on your shoulder because of what somebody did 20 years ago, or what your first wife or your second wife or second husband mentioned about you, or the things that they said that hurt you. And so you go into every relationship after that with the pain of the former relationships, and you treat the person that is coming into your life as if they were the people that hurt you. And in reality, they were not. You're punishing them for something that they never did, right? So what you have to do is, if you can release the pain, release the hurt, release the unforgiveness, then it's been my experience that the anger will soon fade away. But the problem is, we don't want to deal with the unforgiveness and the pain. Therefore, the anger continues to linger on, and that anger could be for a variety of different reasons. But if you can get rid of the hurt, get rid of the unforgiveness, anger will soon leave your life.
Yes, yes. And I think that when you think about being able to release the person, and I just look at it as being like a hook. If you release yourself first, because you got to forgive yourself, and then like Sister Boyd share, we forgive
Mhm.
ourselves, and then the other person has access to get off the hook, because you can't let them off till you let yourself off. So there's a lot of forgiveness that has
Right.
to take place. And so, Brother Jones, would you like to share on your thoughts about healing through anger?
Thank you all, and excellent discussion. Um, yes, yes, yes. When we let anger or any emotion um, consume us and get us to act outside of our character, that's where we go wrong. It is okay to be angry. It is okay to have anxiety. It is okay to have some of those emotions and feelings. However, if we allow them to escalate to where we would act outside of our character, that's when we really need to start looking at some skills to de-escalate those or reduce those symptoms. Because once you get that high, you're not going to be in control of anything of your emotions and everything, and then you'll be thinking, oh, I regret doing that thing. So I would encourage everyone to identify that negative symptom at the beginning, of it and try to utilize something to prevent it from getting to 100, as we would say. And that way, not only will we be in control of our faculties and cognition, we will let that other person that the anger or that emotion is directed towards, we will let them know that we are in control and you are not in control. So you don't have the ability, the authority, or the power to get me to act outside of my character.
Mhm.
So I would encourage everyone to, if you don't have that ability to do that thing, I would ask you to get an accountability brother and or an accountability sister, someone that, if you can't keep yourself in check, someone that can able to help you get yourself in check. And an accountability brother and or sister is someone who would never ask nor endorse you doing anything negative. That's how you know they're true. They would always call you out when you're trying to do something. So that would be my encouragement to anyone listening about anger or any negative emotion that again would get you to act outside of your character.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, um, Brother Jones, because that is, we got to have those tools on board to be able to help us move from one space to the next. And as we see, again, there's just one thing leading to the next. And then before we know it, our heart is suffering from bitterness and envy and all this other stuff that we've allowed to build up because we haven't taken the time and used the tools to try to weed these things out. And for some, like it's at a place, you're at a place to where you may feel like it's impossible, like it ain't gonna happen. It's been this long. I've hated this person for this long and had this anger in my heart for this long. Like it ain't. There's no reason to forgive. But again, when we go back to thinking about our theme, a time to heal, and there's a time for everything. You think about all of the prayers that you're trying to get through that may be hindered because of that unforgiveness in your heart, and you think to yourself and ask that question like, is this thing that I'm holding on to more serious than my health? Whatever it is that you're praying for and that you're asking God for, is it more serious to hold on to this? And you just write down a list of all of those things that you've been praying for and asking God and seeking God for that you may be missing because of all of the barriers and the hindrances that you have in your life right now. So again, we're talking about spring cleaning your mental health, decluttering that stuff. And so Brother Fane kicked in and talked about broken relationships. And we know we got to have a vertical relationship with God, but we also got to maintain these horizontal relationships too. And so,
Yeah.
Brother Joan, I'm sorry, Brother Fane, um, what you've shared some things already, about how they can mend
Mhm.
those relationships. And so I'll just let you just kind of chime in right now and share, like, are there any additional things that you feel like um, that can be done to help somebody today that want to move forward today in
Yeah.
mending those relationships?
Well, I want to jump back real quick to what something Reverend Tally said about his anger developed in his childhood, and I think that's with a lot of us. We are a product of our experiences in our environment. So this doesn't have to do necessarily with broken hearts, or broken relationships, but we also need to heal to make sure that we're not passing down that thing down to our
Mm.
kids.
That's right.
Because if we really look back at it, my dad was angry, his dad was angry, his dad was angry. And so then, if we continue to be that way, we're just another peg in the wheel. And we're just going to pass it down. And it's important for us to realize that we have an opportunity to break some chains. It can stop here with me, right?
That's right.
Instead of going down to Kindle and then his child. So, and I know Reverend Tally's got 3 boys. They're watching. They look. They see. They know what you're doing. Even when they act like they don't, they do. They see everything. And so we have to be careful that we're not refurbishing that pain on down to the next generation. As far as relationships are concerned, um, building a relationship with God, uh, using the love of God, recognizing how much God loves you, um, and then recognizing your value. Set a standard. Listen, you're not going to take certain things. You're you know, uh, there's some things that are just uncompromising. Let them be uncompromising. Um, the other piece is friendship. Be willing to build a friendship with that person. Um, don't make it about just jumping into another relationship, right? So a lot of times we recast. If you're a fan of Fresh Prince, one year we looked up and Aunt Viv was completely different, right? And so we'll do that in relationships. We'll just do a quick recast, and so we need to be able to spend time with ourselves. It's okay to be single. It's all right to be single, and we can't be relationship dependent. Like my value is all about who I'm with, or if I have somebody. All the while, you're miserable. You know, be okay to be single. Single people won't want to be married, and married people want to be single. It doesn't matter what position you're in; it's about you, what's inside you, right? So, and there's a lot of things. There's unfortunately we're living in a day and age where there's just a lot of different stuff going on. But again, just build you up. Be committed to love on yourself, so you'll have a standard moving forward.
Thank you for that, Brother Fane. That is, I love that. Setting up that standard. And I think it's also important for people to learn how to set healthy boundaries within their own relationship, within their selves, because we always look at relationship and our boundaries with other people, but hardly do we ever focus on our own boundaries that we've set within our relationship within ourselves. So I think that that is so important, that people focus on that as well, because you can't love on anyone else. We talked about, putting that mask on, like all these things we need to do for ourselves first before we're able to share that love and, you know, share all of those things with other people. And so, one question that I have for everyone, um, and it's this only if you want to share. And I know, Brother Fane, you've kind of shared from some personal experiences, but um, where you have seen the anger set in, you've seen, then now there's unforgiveness in your heart, and then now you've made it to that whole place of the relationship is just over. Um, and then struggling to try to find a way back, trying to find your way back, and maybe still haven't found your way back. And um, I'll let y'all share, and then I'll come back and share. But I'll let y'all go first.
I'll say this: I think that it's important that we don't use and take the world's narrative of what successful relationship looks like. We have to look at it from the perspective of God, and what God says is a healthy relationship. Um, for me, the biggest challenge was the forgiving. I was hurt. And as a man, it's hard to acknowledge that pain and talk about
Mhm.
it. We don't want to talk about it. We're prideful. We got it. We got it. We got it. We got it. And then our blood pressure goes up, and we're miserable. We're angry. And so we've got to get to the place where, um, we heal. We have to be able to heal, and then take that healing in love. And then again, have that expectation. Whatever I'm pouring into that person, they need to be pouring the same amount into me. That way, our cups stay full.
Wow. Wow.
That's
Thank you
powerful.
for that.
That's great.
That's good. Anybody else like to share?
Yeah, I would like to add also that being self aware, because I believe all of these are a link to one another: the anger, the broken relationships, the unforgiveness. these are types of things that we all have experienced many times over. It won't end. The thing is, we just learn to forgive a lot more quicker, easily. The thing about with the unforgiveness, as I had stated prior, that it's a delayed response. We've held on to it for too long. And I think that, being self aware of your thoughts, your feelings, your emotion, the way how you perceive things, your judgment, things like that are clouded when we don't have a clear view of where we're going. And we don't know where we're going. God's leading us. But however, we can't miss the fact that, when He is guiding us through, we don't want to miss the boat, what have you. We want to be a part of what He is doing in our lives and not being able to sit by the wayside and not being able to be all that God has called us to be. So, therefore, we do have to model these things with other people. It starts with us. I think about being able to get to the true source of the anger, for instance, the reason why I probably still held on to unforgiveness. But I think with each layer that even my own life I had to pull back to get down to it. What is really pulling me back or holding me back? And I think all of us have to be able to get in there and figure out what those things are and pray over those things and give those things to God because He did not create us to hold on to being in bondage, being in such a state that He cannot heal. So we are holding ourselves hostage and many things like that. So again, it's the responsibility of many of us who still have to withhold what He has called us to do and being able to kind of those sorrows, those things that has happened in our past, many of them great. Some of them still sticking with us. When we wake up in the morning, the chances try to hang on to us. But you gotta say goodbye to that stuff, right? We say bye. You no longer live here. Okay, you don't live here anymore. And so we're going to drop that stuff off and be able to live in the fullness of Christ, and be able to forgive and to work through our anger. And even though things weren't the way that it was as we thought, and again, we talked briefly about forgiving ourselves from the makeup of what we thought and what it should look like. And so we move towards a new beginning with a new pair of lenses. So I just want to.
Wow, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sister Boyd. Reverend Tally, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, I would just like to say that a lot of the things that we know now um, were not modeled to us, right? So the things that we're talking about here on this call, I personally did not grow up seeing and hearing this type of conversation. And
Hmm.
because I didn't grow up hearing that, it took me a while to understand that I needed to do something different in
Hmm.
order to get a different result. And so you may be a person that has only seen life through a very narrow lens, but this whole call is set up to let you know that there is another way. There is another road or roadmap that is available that can help get you the healing that you need. It's not always the roadmap that you would like, but the end result is what matters. Because having peace of mind, having healing is so critical. It's so critical. A lot of the health problems, as was mentioned before, that people are dealing with is a result of not being healed, not being well, not forgiving people, right? So if not only can it change your physical life, but as has also been mentioned, it changes your relationship with God, right? So that you get answers from prayers a lot quicker than you would otherwise. So it's a holistic thing for us to allow God to heal us, to clean our mental health, and allow us to be the best spiritual, physical, emotional version of ourselves that we can possibly be, even though that was not modeled to us 30, 40 years ago growing up. It's not too late to pick up new habits and be a better person today.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Reverend Tally. And one of the things I would just like to comment on is that whole physical health part, because a lot of people that are watching this are dealing with ailments and sicknesses right now. And one of the
Right.
things that that a lot of people don't realize is that when you're dealing with a lot of stress, when you're dealing with a lot of anxiety, like our body creates a hormone called cortisol. And every time you are stressed out, every time your body goes into that fight or that flight mode, every time it does that, like your body is having to release cortisol. And so your body has to also have time to reproduce and make more cortisol. But if you stressed out every day, you angry every day, you got unforgiveness in your heart, and you're never allowing your body an opportunity to make more cortisol, then guess what? You in depletion, NSF mode. And that's the way you moving day to day in NSF mode. You ain't got no more cortisol there. Cortisol helps with regulating our blood pressure. It helps with inflammation. It's a part of that whole healing process. But if you stressed out all the time and you depleted and don't have any, I know some people go to the doctor to get cortisol injections and all this other stuff because they have a depletion of it. So you have to check your mental health and check the things that you have going on right now. Again, like Reverend Tyler just said, that could be affecting your physical health. So this is a whole nother, I mean, it's a whole nother ball game when we're looking at where we are in life right now. Some of that unforgiveness and anger that we have been holding on to for years, some of these people are long gone. I don't want to say dead and gone, but some of them are long gone home. And you still holding on to the trauma and the things that you experience. Go get some help. Counseling is out there. I do it every day as a therapist. If you need recommendations, that's what the Hope Ministry is here for. That's what the Comfort and Care Ministry is here for, to help you get the tools that you need so that you can be able to get the help you need and move forward in everything that you have going on. And so I'm just going to ask, Brother Jones, did you have anything additional that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what everybody else has said, that we have to be emotionally honest with ourselves, especially Brother Fain was saying, men don't, our pride would prevent us from sharing certain emotions. So we have to be emotionally honest with ourselves when we're hurting. Also, we have to be spiritually honest with ourselves. There's been times where I've been hurt by someone and I couldn't even say an effective prayer for them. And when I did say a prayer, I would ask God to change them. However, God would show me that it was incumbent upon me to demonstrate what I'm able to do to show change for them. So instead of asking God, change that person, my prayer now is, God, show me where I could be more effective if I am going to interact with that person. So we have to be spiritually and emotionally honest with ourselves to know exactly where we are, because we're not going to be able to treat something or recover from something if we're not being emotionally and or spiritually honest with what that something is. So I just wanted to share that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Brother Jones, for that. So being honest, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so I think that we have provided a lot of good information here today to help our viewers be able to move forward and spring cleaning their mental health, being able to understand that this is the time. I know we said a time to heal, but this is the time. Like no perfect time than right now. A time such as this. This is the time that you need to move forward on your healing journey. And so if nobody else, does anybody else have anything that you would like to share before we close out today?
I have one more thing.
Sure.
I think it's important that the listeners understand that they do not have to suffer in silence, because there's so many people that feel the pain, feel the hurt, and they just suffer in silence. They come to church, they act like everything's okay, but we have more than capable people and capable organizations within Antioch Christian Fellowship to provide some of the services that you may need. We have literally licensed counselors and therapists um, throughout our church, right? That can help you get out of that dark place that you're in. I actually taught the young adults this past Wednesday about getting out of the cave, right? Elijah was in the cave, depressed, alone, frustrated, worried, right? So we as a people have to understand that God doesn't want us to be in a cave in the dark, alone, isolated. We don't have to suffer in silence. He has given us tools in His Word, and He's given us resources around us to help get us out of the cave and to make us free from whatever it is that's holding us back.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Reverend Tally. That's good. Anybody else before we close? All right. So I think that we have done what we were called to do here today. And so if you have any comments, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and we will definitely respond to you. If you're in need of any resources about community mental health, there's community. Pretty much every county offers some type of mental health resources. And on your job, there are EAP programs as well. You can also email us at hope@antiochcorinth.org. Hope@antiochcorinth.org. You can email us there as well. So we want to make sure that this is not just something that you guys just woke up this morning and decide to view, but we want to make sure that y'all are taking action after you get off of here. We want to make sure that y'all are actually examining yourself and really processing to see, like, dang, do I have some of this stuff going on? And if I do, now I know what to do about it. Now let me make those moves, and just know that everybody, we understand that you cannot have a conversation with everybody when it comes to that forgiving process. So don't think that you're going to have to go to these people and ask them for forgiveness, because they may not be at that place in their heart to be able to forgive you. So this just may be a situation where you are having to break down and have that conversation with God to help work with you on your heart and where you are, because we can't change people. But that doesn't mean that you still have to allow this in your heart. This person may still hate you, but you don't have to allow it in your heart. And that's that whole agape love part, where you got to move past that and still be able to love despite how others care, and whether they love you or not. So, but I think we have pretty much done what we need to do here today. Reverend Tally, he's over our Comfort and Care ministry, and you can reach that ministry at comfort@antiochcorinth.org as well. So we just thank you all for joining in on today, and we hope and pray that something has been shared that you will be able to take and move along with on your mental health and your spiritual journey. And you all have a great and exciting Saturday.